the massive savings they gave in Crissy. Are they actually happening? I mean, so we've got the tariff war happening. We've got Doge destroying as opposed to doing anything other than just pure destruction. And we also have a cabinet member, yet another one, sticking their silver foot deep, deep, deep into their own mouth yet again. And then we've got Bill Maher, who had his meeting with Donald Trump. And Dave and I have a very serious discussion about Harvard that we're going to have and what the implications are legally. I think this is a really important one to cover. But I want to start with this idea that the Wall Street Journal, I'm not talking about, Vox or Mother Jones, or Slate covering this topic. Wall Street Journal, this is from, I think on April 11th, has a headline, "See how government spending is up even as Musk touts savings." That's the headline. The subhead says, "Musk team's $150 billion in savings barely dents $6.8 trillion in spending largely on autopilot," according to a Wall Street Journal analysis. And really the key point here is Doge is going to save us all this money, right? By firing people, which has led to tons of lawsuits, rehiring. We're going to ship people off and then you're going to have to bring them back because you didn't do it right. I mean, again, due process. It actually matters. But according to Wall Street Journal analysis, under Doge and Trump in 2025, $154 billion was spent more in 2025 than in 2024 in the same period. So, while he's busy firing everybody and just destroying departments, it's not actually saving money. And this is something that people have been talking about, those of us who actually pay attention, is what Doge has been going after are tiny little bits of the federal budget. The federal budget is not these little departments. The Department of Education, USAID, these are blips in the United States federal budget. By the way, anybody who talks about Social Security in the federal budget is a moron and disingenuous moron and somebody who's misleading you moron, because Social Security is what's called an entitlement. We all, out of our paychecks, contribute to that. Now, granted, the first generation back in the 1930s hadn't paid into it. So we're always going to be making up for that very first generation who received Social Security benefits. But all of the rest of us, ever since it was put in place, since the 1930s, we have been contributing out of our paychecks. And I want to make a very important point before I go to Dave and Crissy on this one. I've been arguing about this for many, many, many years on how you fix Social Security. And of course, nobody wants to fix it. The right doesn't want to fix it. And I don't know why the left, when they've had the chance to fix it, never did. But Ronald Reagan in 1982 had the Grand Compromise with Tip O'Neill way back. And they raised the cap on Social Security contributions. Now, Medicare has no cap, so that goes all the way up. But Social Security has a cap. So once any of the upper middle management, essentially upper middle class, hits, I don't have the number in front of me, but I think it's about $160,000, $150,000 a year, they no longer get Social Security taken out. Right? It's so simple. And all they needed to do was raise that number and link it to inflation or the consumer price index. And so right now, if you take up to $250,000 out of the paycheck, Social Security doesn't have any issue. It doesn't have any issue. And so the fact that people bring it up, our actual federal budget, when you remove Social Security, is about $4.9 trillion a year. Okay? And right now, it's a split between interest, national defense, health, and I think what was the fourth one? It is, national defense, health, Medicare, and interest. Again, Medicare is an entitlement that's being paid for. So remove Medicare, remove Social Security. It's interest now that some of us were arguing about back maybe when we were working on terrestrial radio together, where I was getting so mad at Paul Krugman and everybody on the left saying, oh, but you can just, it doesn't mean anything to have a national debt. Yes, it does when you have $27 trillion. When we were talking about jacking up the national debt that fast, it's because its interest was near zero. It's not near zero anymore. And this tariff war has made it go up fast. And so our interest payments are now the biggest thing in the federal budget.
and Doge is making us spend more, and we're not actually closing that budget gap either. So the deficit and the debt are getting worse. And by the way, where's all that effing money going that they're spending more of? It's like the complete opposite of efficiency, right? Because we're not, we're losing FDA inspectors, inspections in foreign countries, and people are going to get sicker. We're losing funding for cancer research and whatnot. All sorts of things that the government actually does pretty well and are necessary. We're losing services and spending more, as you're saying, Ethan. So what
Right.
the actual fuck?
But I think also
Yes.
isn't Musk sort of targeting any of the the systems that would regulate things that he has a vested interest in, right? Like that's one of the things that he's stripping away, and manipulating, even though you're like, well, you could literally just rip apart the defense budget and find a lot of fat on that defense budget. But instead, you're going after these smaller parts of the federal government that would do the checks and balances on the shit that your companies are trying to push through the line so that you can get more contracts for your companies. And again, like things like OSHA, safety and security for like departments that cover safety and security, those are the ones where people are being fired because those are the regulatory sides of the government where, that would really inconvenience him and a lot of his cronies when they want to start pushing through contracts. Social Security, if you don't have an X account, you're not going to be able to access your Social Security. I mean, they're just like, it's absolute nonsense. And I think Donald Trump's golfed more in this first 3 months than he did previously.
To profit his own businesses, by the way.
Correct.
That's to profit at his own businesses. He spent more in 3 months, I believe, than Joe Biden did in 4 years on these weekend trips.
Right.
Got to book all the Secret Service guys into his hotels and things like that.
At full rate, not at government rate, by the way.
That's right. That's right. So it's just like, as I said, a lot of these like Musk heads guys that were like, I want to see what he does, and the government's a fat cat, and I'm like, where are you? Where I haven't seen you guys trying to argue with me on Facebook recently, because anyone with a fucking brain, and I mean, honestly, now that I'm back in America, I can see there's a lot of people with no fucking brains. No offense to Dave's city of Boston, God bless him, but there's a lot of fucking morons here, just like there are everywhere. I'm overhearing conversations in coffee shops of people just saying the stupidest shit, and I'm like,
sounds like Crissy met my cousins, by the way.
I was going to say that, but I wasn't going to say it.
Oh, you can say it.
I might have. Yeah. Zephyr and I are sitting in coffee shops just like eavesdropping, like, holy shit. If it's not, college kids on TikTok, I'm like, how the fuck are you in Boston College? Like, I don't get. I thought this was like a reputable place. How are you at Emerson? This conversation is fucking moronic.
I'm just gonna say, I remember way back to the University of Minnesota days, we had I remember having really some stupid conversations back then.
I guess, but there was no social media. There was no vanity. Like, right. I'm looking at these girls. I was at this coffee shop, and I'm like, oh, there's no way these girls are in college. Like, they're teenagers. They're doing TikTok, routines with their dog in the coffee shop. And I'm like, this is not real life. Like, this cannot be what's happening right now.
The only thing that's unique about this time in history is just our tools for communicating, right? This instantaneous, globally connected communication tool that we've been leveraging. But otherwise, everything you're talking about, I mean, you can go back and read about Plato and Aristotle and some of their thoughts on the morons that were around them at the time. I mean, it's just, this is a consistent human experience.
Supposedly the most educated we've ever been, like back in the day, the average Roman couldn't read or write. And, so you could very easily, as we've talked about, control. It's very easy to control people when they don't have any education.
And when there's no gatekeeper and we just shove propaganda that are half-truths or quarter-truths.
And then that's an added problem, I think, both among college kids and also Bostonians for that matter, is it's one thing to be stupid, it's another thing to be stupid and emphatic about it, or stupid with a purpose. If you're just kind of dumb and off by the side, that's one thing. But stupid with a purpose is a little bit scary, and there's a lot of that.
My social sort of observation is always like, I went into this really cute breakfast spot that Dave recommended. It's like Mike and what is it called, Dave? Like Mike and Beth's or Mike whatever. Anyway, it's this tiny little you just go in, you order they got 5 breakfast sandwiches and a killer breakfast burrito, and you go in and there's you can't sit down in there, right? You've got to order, and the place is like the size of a fucking shoebox because they really don't want you in there. You're supposed to pre-order or run in, and then you stand outside and wait. There is a group, a family came in today as I was standing in there. Now, Zephyr and I are very much like citizens of the world. When it's a tight space and a long line, one person goes in. They get the order from everybody else. One goes in. They do the ordering. You don't take up a ton of space. You don't get in the way. You're efficient. And if you had a group of friends, then one person would pay and everyone would Venmo. This is what people with brains do. Now, I'm standing in there. It's literally packed to the brim because it's a Sunday morning and everyone wants to think. An entire family comes in. And I mean, the dad is probably 6'8", big giant white dude. The other rest of the family is like the son, who's a moron, who's in his 20s, the daughter, who's a moron, who's probably going to college nearby, and the mom, who's like the hyper dominant mom. They all shove in and there's no fucking room. And I'm like, these people, I mean, these are like boomers with their, or like older Gen Xers our age, with their 20-year-old children, and they can't figure out there's not enough fucking room in this place. Just one person goes in and orders, right? And they're all just like, ooh, and then they start complaining, it's so crammed in here. It's like, you fucking people get out. You get out. What? You guys are not intelligent enough as a group of adults to see what's going on around you spatially and then walk out. You couldn't make that decision when you walked in. The dad had to stand there and look at the fucking menu, and I'm just like, I hate these people. I literally hate them. And I went out and I told Zephyr, and he's like, God, Mom, I fucking hate everybody. I was like, I fucking hate everyone too. It was just like,
I love that, by the way. You're almost a true Bostonian now, by the way. Just absolutely hating everybody around you. Because it's not the biggest city in the world, but it's not laid out well.
No.
It's really colonial. Every place is too small, for the number of people around. You can't drive, you can't walk. People bump into each other. And yeah, so it's all it is MF everybody around you.
But I would guess that Boston is similar to Europe and that it's got all these foreigners at these colleges, people who are not from cities like that have no idea how to get, kids who are from, plotted, whatever, track homes and small towns where everyone drives to and fro. They don't even know how to walk in a fucking street. And you got Bostonians that are like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Have you seen these diagonal fucking sidewalks in these weird fucking spaces? And there's too many red lights and there's too many cars. And you're in here in a place the size of a fucking toilet, 5 people deep, trying to order breakfast sandwiches. Get the fuck out.
Crissy, on an odd side note that you just triggered this thought for me. Did you see that with speaking of too many cars in Boston, your present hometown of Paris, when with their reduction in automobiles, has had a tremendously positive impact on the air pollution. So when is Boston going to join Paris?
Oh my God. But if Boston was to get the green spaces the way that Paris is rolling out the green spaces that from the edict of the mayor, by the way, the Parisians are equally as pissed off as the Bostonians. You're just not hearing about it. The mayor, Anne Hidalgo, who was not running for re-election again because most Parisians want to dump her in the Seine after the Olympics. We're getting all these beautiful green spaces, right? And in theory, for me, I'm like, this is wonderful because the air quality in Paris sucks because everyone smokes, right? Now we have less cars, which is amazing. It's very walkable. It's super convenient. And in theory, it's going to be great. But if you ask the average Parisian, what do you think about all the new green spaces being built? All they will do is complain to you about the inconvenience. Just to know Parisians is to know they are never satisfied. If they've hired somebody to do a job, they elected Anne Hidalgo, now they hate her. They elected Macron, they hate him. There's a general sense in French culture where whatever, they're never satisfied, which just keeps them pushing along, I think. in contrast to Americans who I think have just become numb to everything, and we're just kind of like, ooh, like, you know, I can't wait to get that new life-changing lipstick from TikTok. Like, we have literally become, I call America Wall-E, you know, like the people in Wall-E that just kind of like floated around and then got sucked up into the thing and they just kind of bounce around. Like, have you guys not seen Wall-E, the fucking thing?
That's one of my favorite movies.
Okay, Americans, are they not, for the most part, aside from us three Americans? I feel like I call them Wallies. They're just kind of bouncing around. They've got on the television shows they love. They're just kind of, they're eating at the places, and I'm like, it's fucking Wally.
It's a consumer society, right? And
Yes.
and that's why this whole idea of the tariffs and that we're going to manufacture everything ourselves is kind of silly, because how many people that you know have raised their hand and said, if I don't currently work a factory job, want to go get a factory job?
We won't pick fruit. That's even outside.
No, it's like that great Chappelle riff that you mentioned last week, Ethan.
And Brazil is a great example that we are following of how it has harmed them in many ways. Some things have worked out for Brazil, but their economy has never worked the way it was supposed to, because the government, they needed to make their own cars, their own ships. They did do well with airplanes with Embraer. They did do well with, what was the other thing I was going to mention that they've done well with? Certain agricultural things they've done exceedingly well with.
Even beef production, like them in Argentina have except. I mean,
they've done great with that, but because of their tariff structure to have everything built in Brazil, and remember, Brazil is about as diverse as the United States. It is
pretty large.
That's right. I mean, like physical, but access to natural resources, just human resource, all of that, very similar. And they've always been a laggard, and it's partially been because of the tariffs, which leads me to the tariff topic for just a moment, which is, I'm still curious. I actually sat down and did some of the math on this yesterday, because I was like, how come nobody has talked about this? And so I did a little bit of math, and when the topic of tariffs first comes up, and Trump and his team want to say that, oh, well, this is what we're going to do instead of taxes. So we can have this massive tax cut. Remember, that's the justification here, is tariffs will replace income taxes on the wealthy, mostly, is what we're talking about, right? So did anybody do the math over here? Did you see any articles on the math of tariffs? Any? Did you? Seriously, I'm actually honestly asking you the question. Did you see any articles where they broke down how much does the United States import every year? What is our budget, excluding Social Security and Medicare? And how much revenue could be generated off of a tariff for our imports? Have you seen anybody discuss this anywhere, including The Economist, The Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, Market Watch, anywhere? Have you seen any articles on that?
Not specific to tariffs, but the only thing I saw was the framework for the next Republican budget bill that includes those tax cuts and whatnot. The CBO was like, oh my God, it's going to be just a deficit explosion. So yes. Not specific to tariffs, though, like you're saying.
So let's talk about the tariffs for a second. And because I was like, this seems like really simple math that nobody talks about. The United States imports, grand total, in an entire fiscal year, $4.1 trillion worth of goods, not services, goods, because goods are subject to tariffs, not services. $4.1 trillion worth of goods get imported in the United States every year. Our federal budget, excluding Medicare and Social Security, because those are funded entitlements, is about $4.9 trillion. So really simple math says, if you're going to replace a lot of our taxes because of the tax cut with tariffs, 10% across the board, right, which is kind of where we are right now, excluding China, is what Trump put in place, right? 10% across the board. That's $410 billion. However, if the point is to get more domestic production, that means our imports are going to drop from 4.1 trillion, which means the revenue generated will be less than $400 billion a year. And if your budget is $4.9 trillion and you're going to collect less than $400 billion on tariffs, how's this working out? And as Doge, as we just pointed out, spending is actually up under Doge. Then how in the world does this ever add up? But let me take that a step further. That means you would have to do 100% tariffs on everything that we import, which you can't do because now we were going to have a massive global recession. And then all of a sudden you're going to lose the vast majority of that import tariff revenue. So you're back to square one again. Under no scenario, just using simple back of the napkin math, do tariffs replace taxes? They just don't.
That's not their ultimate goal, right? It's not to make this work on a macroeconomic public policy level. It's to blow everything the F up and turn it into a complete full-blown oligarchy. They don't care about the math. They couldn't give two shits about the math.
Mainstream media has enabled this.
Yes.
Because they report on everything equally. Like I was listening to NPR yesterday and I heard some news report where they just straight up quoted, I don't know if it was North Korea, Iran. I know it was Iran. Why would you ever, just without any caveat around it, as if it's a fact, when Iran says, our nuclear program is exclusively for peaceful purposes? Everybody knows that's a load of shit.
And they don't have a free press and they don't have free media.
Right. And more importantly, they've openly stated how they intend to use nukes to destroy Israel and the United States. The great Satan is the United States. The little Satan is Israel.
It's not just don't trust Iran, by the way. Don't trust anybody or anything anybody says.
Fact check the shit out of it.
And so to your point, Ethan, it's really just lazy reporting, which, there's a lot of inside baseball as to why, media companies losing money and whatnot, not doing as much investigative reporting, not doing as much background. So it's easy to just, take a quote and throw it up there without context or without fact checking, whether it be Iran or the White House, doesn't matter.
That leads us exactly to the thing you guys wanted to talk about, which is Bill Maher. And this morning, Stephen A. Smith was on ABC running his yap, right? Which of course that's what he does. And Zephyr, my son, was like, what the fuck does Stephen A. Smith have to say? Why is he? I was like, all these people want to do is have their voice heard so they can make a buck.
Speaking of, share this show so we can make a buck.
Yeah.
I think Bill Maher has taken a much more entertainment approach, even to politically to his show than he did in Politically Incorrect. And so when he's like, I'm going to go to the White House and you guys can tell what happens, just keep in mind, Bill Maher is trying to keep his show relevant and on HBO.
Yeah, it's performative. That's his gig. He's not meant to be a philosopher or a statesman or anything like that. He wants to get hits and likes and ratings and all the way down the line. And I think kind of to that point, it was interesting. So many people on the left were so pissed at him for even doing that or for, complimenting Trump and sounding like a Trump apologist. And it was sort of like, there's something there where I'm like, the people on the left want to hate Trump so much that they also underestimate him. And it kind of makes sense that those two kind of clicked in this private dinner because they're both just performers. If there's anything,
yes.
Trump's not a good businessman. He's not a good statesman. He's not a good economist, but he's a fabulous salesman and a fantastic performer and con man. And it was sort of like Bill Maher's there, like game recognizes game.
Absolutely.
And Trump's probably even better at that gig than Bill Maher ever was. So don't underestimate the way Trump plays everybody to do what he needs to do for his message, for himself, for his power, and for his wealth. And the fact that Bill Maher, another performer, went in there and got fucking charmed by him is not that shocking. Because,
of course,
don't ground your political opinions and your morals in Bill Maher either. All right, people? They're two sides of the same coin, Trump and Bill Maher.
I think this is the problem with left-wing people, especially far left and especially liberals, is they want to pretend they are black and white. And that, again, is the biggest problem with the Democrats, is everyone pretending that they are on the right side of history, that they are on the right side of the law. Well, it's like, well, Nancy Pelosi, you might be like, you go girl, but at the same time, you're insider trading and raking in the same. I mean, so it's like, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she bought stocks during that tariff thing and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, so do the fucking Democrats.
That to me, that the left went crazy this week and
Bullshit.
Elizabeth Warren,
all the millionaires, All the millionaire Democrats.
And they're calling out that, oh, well, there was insider trading. Then you fucking do it every day. Until you pass a rule that Congress can't do insider trading, shut the fuck up on this topic.
But again, that's what I'm saying about liberals is like they have the audacity to pretend that they are like so upset that Bill Maher would sit there and have jokes with Donald Trump. It's like, dude, I have seen liberals do terrible things. They'll say they're for this and then they go and do that because everybody, the culture that we have in America for the most part is just self-service. Right? So it's like, okay, like I think we need to drop the bullshit. You're not any better.
But this goes back to something that I think that we've been talking about for a while, maybe since episode 1 of this show, Crissy, which is that so much of politics, and again, this goes back thousands of years. This isn't new. So much of politics is performative for controlling the masses, and it's so reprehensible. That's why I go back now. I'm like, remember, I was not a member of the Democratic Party before 2016. I was what's called a no party preference in the state of California. You don't call yourself an independent in California because that's actually a super conservative party here, the Independent Party. But I was a no party preference, and I'm kind of back into that. I'm still technically a registered Democrat at this point, but I may end up going completely as a no party preference again, because what has happened is this idea, of performative politics. So Cory Booker, I think, was commendable what he did. I think, everybody has their weaknesses, everybody has their blind spots. No human is perfect, but there are people on the left who really, but it's not many politicians who seem to really have a great moral compass on things and follow through with what they believe. And it's the same thing. I've known people on the right who I think are good people too. Yeah. But it's like the majority of politicians have shown us over the last 10 years that and for the last 2,000 years, but that they really are. It's about maintaining power, making money for themselves, power and control, and money for themselves and their families. And it's not about, hey, how do I do things better? And that's why I keep saying post World War II, there was that little golden era. And I just don't feel it that much anymore. It's just it's just really, really, really frustrating.
The right uses Christianity, right? So the liberals use the liberals will use personal freedoms and rights for all. They'll use human rights as their sort of campaign.
Dave,
I think this is an interesting thing. Like, Crissy, you're kind of pausing and trying to find the words of like what the liberals use. They don't even have a fucking message. So both sides are performative. The right is really good at it, and they've coalesced around Christianity and MAGA and whatever else. The left is also performative, trying to like hang on to their own power and, make money doing their trades and shit like that. And here we are, communicators on a podcast, and we couldn't articulate what the left, what the Democrats, politicians, the party are actually for. Who the fuck knows right now? They're stupid with a purpose. They're shitty at their jobs and only good at holding on to their offices to a certain degree.
But we can say one thing that came out of the 2024 election. I think I saw Professor Scott Galloway talk about this for a moment on some clip on social media, which was, we were about women's rights, right? It was, we're going to preserve women's access to health care. We're going to preserve the right to an abortion. We're going to preserve the right to birth control, that kind of stuff. And but what is wrong with that messaging is actually something Dave and I were talking about earlier today, not on the air, which is, and that while that's, slightly over 50% of the United States population, what has happened is we keep balkanizing on demographics.
Yep.
And so you had young men who've been literally told to go fuck themselves for the last few years. And I'm dead serious. And so that's why the red pilling is so effective with them, is you don't count, you don't matter. We don't care if you go to college. we don't care. You know, you're going to be in trouble if you ask somebody on a date. You're going to be in trouble if you don't ask somebody on a date. You're going to be in trouble if you pay for a date. You're going to be in trouble if you don't pay for a date. You're going to be in trouble if you open a door for somebody. You're going to be in trouble if you don't open a door for somebody.
Your existence is toxic.
Trump won because young men, for the first time in modern history, meaning under 25-year-old males, voted Republican. Yeah. They didn't vote Democrat. And it's because Democrats are so focused. I will only be pro-Hamas, pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian, pro-women. But young men, I don't give a fuck that you're not going to college anymore. I don't give a fuck that you're falling behind. I don't give a fuck that you're committing suicide at such a high level. We're just going to, too bad for you because me too. And so you're getting yours now. I had a huge debate on Twitter about this when we were on KGO back in like 2017, 2018, because we kept having people on, everybody from David French. There was some psychology professor from New York we had on. I kept talking about it. I'm like, what about the young men? And I would go on Twitter and women, it'd be, hey, 60% of the incoming college freshmen are women, which is great, right? And I said, but what about the fact that young men keep falling behind and they're not going to college? They're not learning that liberal arts, critical thinking skills, whatever that you're supposed to learn in a liberal arts school. And they're just going into trades and they're feeling left behind. And I literally was flooded with comments from women saying too fucking bad, the equivalent of too fucking bad. It's our time now. And it's like, no, it's not a zero-sum game. You still have to worry about young men. You still have to worry about what are their opportunities, what are the messages we're sending them. And you're sending a message that says, you know what, you're disposable. We don't need you anymore.
It's also a logical fallacy for women to say it's our time now, because if you look at the human history, the pendulum swings back and forth. So if you can't find a balance, if the women were after the Me Too movement, were like, women, okay, I'm a woman, so I can speak on it, right? I understand. We have the right to stand up and say that 90% of us have been sexually harassed in the workplace. 90% of us have been more than that. Right. More than 90% of women will have been sexually harassed in their life by a stranger. You know, I am writing a thesis on the audacity of white men, but at the same time, I'm raising one, right? And where we go so fucking wrong, particularly America and particularly liberals, is we swing the pendulum so far and then we're shocked by the outcome on the other side when it hits us right in the fucking ass, because we've swung it so far this way that the amount of velocity that is going to come back to us just scientifically is going to whack us in the fucking head. And the entire time we were so fiercely swinging this pendulum to the side of feminism, and I am a feminist who is raising a son, a white boy, a white male, and he deeply respects women, and he is thoughtful, and he sees me stand up for myself constantly, and he sees me be a feminist. But at the same time, I do not want to emasculate this young man because I want him to reach his full potential in life.
It's so self-owning and so self-defeating what the left has done here.
Correct.
The worst thing you can do if you want to help Me Too, and you're not going to get fewer rapists by pushing the young men over to the MAGA side. It's the complete opposite of what you want to do by disenfranchising them and balkanizing the whole thing.
Women have to get in a room and go like, we wanted equal rights. We didn't want to push everybody into the opposite end of that. And that's what we did.
Very few people on the left that I know of are having this conversation. And that's the problem. And it's going to continue to be a problem for the Democrats when we start talking about the performative politics, until you have genuine conversations on these issues. And if your issue is based on hatred and anger and retribution, good luck. Good luck. It's just going to cause more human suffering and pain. So I want to shift gears, though, for a second, because these are some heavy topics we've been talking about. And Dave brought something to my attention. I mentioned that we need to have a 2 a.m. conversation of something else super heavy that's been just weighing on my mind about reality and Dave. But I'm not going to have it right now. We may have to do a bonus episode, or for our little 2 a.m. conversations for the whatever. I don't want to name names of other shows that maybe inspire the middle of the night conversations that used to be on the radio. Some still are. But Dave pointed something out to me that just came out, that these Harvard students, Dave, tell the story. What is this thing?
So as I understand, it was sort of the next
Harvard,
right? Get the Boston accent right. Got to drop the Oz in honor of Crissy being in the cradle of the revolution there this week. So the story from Harvard, as I understand it, and not being on top of the tech side, that's not my forte, but essentially smart glasses, right? As people have been working on forever. That they've mixed in with AI technology. So essentially, if you have the smart glasses on, they were testing the tech where you can go around, and as you're walking around in public, like Crissy at the breakfast place this morning, could know what that idiot family's names were and all their information that they may have on social media or wherever else. And, I'm sure we all understand that with facial recognition merging with AI, that this was going to be another step. But the main part of the story, to my understanding, was how good the tech is right now. Like, we're sure the government, the government with their black mirrors and stuff like that going through the airport know who every face is that comes through. But that it's so close to being something that the consumer could wear walking around. And, there's Ethan, there's Crissy, and there's Bob with his idiot family ordering sausage sandwiches wrong this morning.
And here's their home address, so I can dox them, right?
Yeah. Right.
Scary.
And so, Ethan, you were saying that in addition to the, scary kind of tech side of it, and for me, I'm like, I don't want to walk around and have people say, hey, Dave, what's happening? Just on a social level, F that. But there are legal ramifications too.
It's so scary. So a couple of things. Dave, first off, thank you for bringing this one to my attention, bringing it to our attention, right? I mean, this is actually, I'm not kidding. This is so deep and so complicated, and I'm going to keep it simple as much as I can. First off, have you guys heard of a company called Clearview.ai?
No.
They were in the news. They were the first company that went out and like the AI companies and just hoarded every bit of information from all the social media companies that they could. They got in big trouble for that. Law enforcement started using their services. They were selling it to law enforcement for quick and easy facial identification. They've been fined times in U.S. They were fined $30 million by the Netherlands data protection watchdog. It was 33.7 million just last fall of 2024. They were fined 9.4 million in the UK in 2022. I mean, there's just scandal after scandal. So the reason this becomes very, very, very important from a legal standpoint. So I just wanted to give you that little context of Clearview, right? So there's already a company that's been doing all of this for years and trying to sell it to government agencies and whatnot. But where this becomes insane is the way the Fourth Amendment ends up working. This is just, I'm not telling you that this is the for sure outcome, but it is. Once something becomes common in terms of the use of technology, it is 100% legal for law enforcement to use it.
Right.
Once it becomes common in the society that the average civilian has access to it, it no longer is protected by the Fourth Amendment. Meaning, so there's even recent case law here where the use of drones to take pictures into your backyard, well, because everybody has drones now, or can, the invasion of privacy laws are essentially changing, and we need to actually pass laws, because now I can fly my drone up 100 feet and I can take pictures of you, nude sunbathing in your backyard. There's no privacy right, because everybody has that. And now law enforcement can use that to keep an eye on what's going on in your backyard without any need for a subpoena or anything, because everybody has this technology available. So as soon as those AI glasses, the Meta Ray-Bans modded by Harvard students, as soon as that becomes something that rolls out, now cops can use it without needing a warrant, right? A warrant, a subpoena, anything like that. They don't need, once it's common, they literally could be what we can outfit our regular, beat police officers with that. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm merely saying that's how the law works. I mean, you can judge whether that's good or bad, but they literally would be able to walk around with glasses on and see, just looking at you. Do you have a warrant? Do you have what about this? Do you have 3 outstanding parking tickets? Your name is, Dave Fusaro, and you live at 123 Main Street in Boston, Massachusetts. Right, and that's already been a big thing. These license plate readers that law enforcement use everywhere, that's common now. It's just in use everywhere. But if you thought you had issues with civil liberties around things like license plate readers, go ahead and go buy those Meta glasses and start putting in the doxing capability, and now law enforcement can use it.
And I think not just the beat cops as far as law enforcement goes, because I can already hear friends of mine, my cousins on the right, saying, well, just don't have a warrant, you'll be fine. Yeah. Not just the beat cops walking around, which is scary enough in its own right, but any agent of the government, right?
That's right.
No matter who it may be. IRS agents, Homeland Security, ICE, all the way up and down the line, any agent of the government can just walk around, and there's just the privacy sphere is shrinking. All that.
Yes. Yes. And that's the nature. That's nailed it on the head there, Dave. And I do want to clarify, Border Patrol already has that right to do that. But it's going to be everywhere in the United States that becomes completely legal and normal. It's normalized. And so as we adopt technology as a society, as long as that happens, the Fourth Amendment shifts and says, well, now they don't need a warrant or a subpoena because that's just standard technology that everybody has access to.
There's so many people that said, you got to get a burner phone before you come to the U.S. And I was like, I mean, I guess at this point, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that we don't have the manpower at the individual U.S. airports to arrest everybody that thinks Donald Trump sucks and go through. But right. This technology, right? I'm saying at this point in time, right? At this point in time, I'm like, I'm good. I'm not going to get a burner phone because they're really looking for foreign nationals, people on visas, really the brown people. I know for right now, I'm sliding through the cracks because I'm white. And I'm got a cute white son. And I mean, literally, I went through the customs and they were just like, hey, welcome home. It was a 2-second thing, right? No one gives a shit looking at me and Zephyr. Again, I've always said Zephyr and I would be the greatest spies in the world. We were in fucking Africa and they thought we were African. We're in Eastern Europe. They think we're Eastern Europeans. So it's just wherever we go, it's just smile going through, right?
But I think in Israel, they might recognize that you're not Jewish.
Maybe not. Maybe. I mean, who knows? My mother looks Israeli, so you just never know.
True. The Mediterranean.
This level of when this changes the way that the government operates, then they do have the manpower, right? Then we have the ability to scan people as they're walking through the airport. Not even with the glasses, just through the camera, through that similar technology. So you've got additional agents, the additional cameras scanning through, and they can immediately scan me and go, she fucking hates Trump, pull her aside for questioning. Even if you can't arrest me technically at that point, you could scare the shit out of people, which is what the intention is, by the way. Those sure. Veiled threats by and you've seen them on Twitter, on X, where Eric Trump he took it down and people reposted it, where he was like, you'd be better off to just fall in line and not do anything, because if you come after us, we will come after you, right? They're very much interested in the Gestapo state of, we'll find you if you talk shit about us and we're going to come after you. So for the moment, I'm not going to get a burner phone because technically I can't get arrested for saying Donald Trump's a fucking loser. He literally had dinner with Bill Maher, who's been saying he's a fucking loser and calling him a goddamn orangutan. And there was a fucking lawsuit, right? But as we continue to not pay attention in America, as we continue to worry about what the next viral cottage cheese recipe is, and what TikTok dance is great, and which lipstick I should buy on TikTok, and not having these conversations, then we will get to the point where you roll through, you're coming home from your European vacation, you were talking some shit, and you will get pulled aside.
And the only reason, to your point, Crissy, they haven't done it yet is because they don't quite have the manpower and technology at the moment.
It's going to happen way faster than you think.
Are we ending on that note, a scary ass note?
Can we finish on one little quick positive note since
Yes.
Crissy is part Australian at this point?
Yes.
And is Zephyr?
No way. He not until he's 18. He's not having a co-passport. Fuck no. I can retain legal control of that child.
So, did you happen to catch the Robert Irwin ad, Crissy, that apparently got hearts?
I won't watch it. So many Australian people are like, hey, have you seen the Robert Irwin Bonds underpants ads? And I'm like, nothing about that sentence makes me want to Google it at all. Because since Bob has been baby Bob since he was born, he's been an angel to me. I don't want to know anything about baby Bob's junk. I am like a super Steve Irwin fan from the beginning. I believe if there was more Steve Irwins in the world, we would not be in this place because he was like the best human of humans. And it was a goddamn tragedy we lost him for so many reasons, but I don't know about Robert Irwin's junk. I don't want to know. I can't know about it.
I'm generally not a junk Googler, but now that this has come up, all right, I'm interested. I'm in. What's the story?
I don't know anything about his junk.
How is it Australians are so laid back? It's simple. They're all wearing comfy undies.
And I believe he's dating or he's engaged to it's very Australian. He's engaged or marrying Heath Ledger's niece. It's all very Australian and adorable and lost.
That's cute. I love that.
Aussie.
The other one that I'm thinking of is a phenomenal ESPN short one, Sports Center commercial with Steve Irwin.
Listen, Steve, I hear you. I mean, if it's up to me, right, we'd have the crocodile hunting 24/7.
Exactly. Every single time I do my bootlaces up, I'm staring death right in the eyes. How many baseballers are doing that?
I'm with you, that's for sure.
Crikey! Stand back, John. Have a go at the size of this beauty. I got him, mate.
Steve, don't.
Ooh, isn't he gorgeous? I'll have him subdued any minute now.
I'll catch up with you later.
John, give us a hand, mate.
Thank you guys so much. Give us a follow on the socials. Drop us a note. Should be a morningshow.com as well. We'll talk to you next week.
I'm generally not a junk Googler,
I don't know anything about his junk.